Welcome to my channel. I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, and today we're doing the astrology forecast for September of 2025. And my guest and fellow astrologer, Justin Elzie, is joining me. Welcome, Justin. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Liz. I'm excited to talk about the importance of September.
Yeah, and to our audience, I want to say sorry that we're a little bit late, but it's just been how the times are going. A lot of things happening, that's for sure. So Justin Crockett Elzie is joining me. He's an archetypal and Jyotish astrologer, teacher, author, and seer. And his email is justin.elzie@gmail. And I'm an astrologer, author, and intuitive. And my website is alightpath.com. And we enjoy hearing from you. So we're in Virgo season.
Yay!
Virgo is an earth element. Earth element to me is about stability, a mutable modality. To me, that's where we finish things up to move on to the next project. The ruling planet of Virgo is Mercury, and the mantra is I analyze. And Justin, can you give us the keywords, please?
Sure. So some of the keywords is if you have anything in Virgo, there can be a sense of being analytical. They're good at being analytical, practical, organized, needing a sense of order and structure around life. They're adaptable, detailed, observant, and there is they're good at fine detail with things. So um, people with a lot in Virgo tend to be good strategists, and like Mars in Virgo tends to be a strategist. Actually, there's a Napoleon, and his chart had some really strong Virgo aspects with Mars or Jupiter. And also, they make good accountants. Anything that dealing with a detail oriented, or if they draw, then they're going to draw fine lines or paint fine lines. The caution with Virgo energy is that it's overly perfectionist or critical, and it can also have an element of what's the word I want to say. Um, can stop themselves in the tracks because it's never perfect enough. So that's just a little bit about Virgo energy.
And this is a picture I took of the steps leading down to my house. And you can see the lake in the background. And I thought it was perfect for Virgo.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Analysis paralysis with the Virgo
Yes,
energy. Yeah.
absolutely. And then Justin's come up with some favorable activities this month, and I'll let him share those.
Yeah, so one of the things in Jyotish we look at is that you can look at is and how it relates to the Western chart is that during this month of September, the sun goes through 3 lunar mansions. We start out and it's in Purva Falguni right now. It starts out at the beginning of the month in Purva Falguni. It then will move into Uttara Falguni, and then ends a month in the Nakshatra or lunar mansion of Hasta. And so some of the we came up with a list here, some favorable activities that you can focus on this month. Relaxation, marriage is this good month for marriage, travel, giving to charities, administrative work, resolving disputes, gardening, organizing, and really just kind of getting things in order. This is a good month to do that.
Awesome. I'm trying to get my garden in order.
So can I kind of say something about kind of before we get into the different weeks, Liz?
Sure.
So I'm just curious what you think about this, but you know, as we know that this year the lunar south node has been going through Ketu, it's been going through Virgo, and north node of course is in Pisces, and so this is the year if people are listening and they have planets in Virgo this year. Because Ketu or that south node, that lunar south node, is like a disruptor and brings change and chaos and disruption. Something will change in people's structure and life this year. If you have a Mars in Virgo, Moon in Virgo, Let's say, for example, you have Moon in Virgo in your 10th house of career. Something is going to change this year as far as your career goes, as far as or you may be moved to a new team. You actually may go through a new change in career, or there may be sort of this need to purge career or purge something or complete something or perfect something or improve something, because Virgo wants to improve. And so I think it's kind of important this year that, especially this month, everything is kind of coming up to a crescendo or an inflection point, because it's a Virgo month. So it's going to highlight um, the theme of Virgo this year with that South node in Virgo. What do you think?
Well, I would agree with that. And um, agree with the purging part, even on other levels than career. I mean, I'll be interested to see how that affects my career. But the example for me is, um, I've been kind of thinking about what my next car would be. And this week, all of a sudden, I have a new vehicle. It's not brand new, but it's a different vehicle because I've had a lot of issues with the vehicle I had. And so it was kind of time to purge things that aren't working so well. And I have the moon in Virgo. And one of the reasons I chose a family van, is that I take my parents to doctor's appointments, and then I'll have more room to put their wheelchairs or walkers in the car. So it does help me with my family. So
So there's that improvement, right? Improving is something, and Mercury just moved into Virgo. Mercury about travel or transportation. So
exactly. So, I mean, that was kind of, I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I've been thinking about it, but I thought, it was probably, a few years out or a year out, but it came
right.
to being it without even much thought. It's just like kind of put the idea out there and it comes back to you when the time's right.
Right, right. Well, and the other thing, because we know normally Virgo rules the sixth house, so this is going to be a year too. If a person has their sixth house is actually ruled by Virgo, it could be the year where they're improving their health, going through some type of surgery. If their sixth house is ruled by Virgo, pay attention to their uh, lower digestion system, pancreas, and those things. We don't diagnose, but in medical astrology, those areas are gonna be affected. Purging systems, but then also they can have things that improve their work life too. So Virgo can affect every area there, depending on where it's in the chart. But to me, I think this is an important month. I'm excited to talk about each week, because this is where everything comes up to a crescendo or an inflection point about the theme of the Ketu and South Node in Virgo this year.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get to it. So September 1st at midnight, I did a chart for that because I like to kind of look at that. The moon um, was in the sign of Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. So, truth, philosophy are a highlight perhaps this month. And it's a first quarter moon phase from the sun to the moon. So the first quarter is about adjustments, um, like what changes need to be made. And the ascendant's at 22 degrees of Gemini and the midheavens at 20 degrees of Aquarius. Anything you'd like to add, Justin?
No, no, I think you got it covered.
And out of bounds this month, we have the moon from August 30th through September 4th. So I kind of forgot that the moon was out of bounds. So maybe that's why it's taken me a few extra days to get this podcast done. And then September 13th through the 17th, and again on September 27th through October 1st. And Hygeia has been out of bounds since June and will continue to be out of bounds until February 17th of 2027. And Pluto is out of bounds. Pluto went out of bounds on August 29th and will be out of bounds until November 23rd. Anything you'd like to add about this, Justin?
Yeah, that Hygeia, I think, is kind of important if people like to do medical astrology. It's gone between, it was in Gemini, and It's now at 0 degrees Cancer right now. So, this could be the time when people are focusing more on their digestion with Cancer, and their food and the quality of their food, and their diet. Again, I think Hygeia really highlights that in Cancer, and the health of our emotions and nurturing and food at this particular point in time.
And Justin and I will be back in, probably not till the beginning of October and do a show on Hygeia going retrograde and everything too. So,
Yeah.
and then planets as they ingress into new signs for September. On the 1st, Saturn retrograded back into Pisces. On the 2nd, Mercury moved into Virgo. On the 15th, Vesta will ingress into Sagittarius. On the 18th, Mercury will move into Libra. On the 19th, Venus will move into Virgo. And on the 22nd, we have Mars moving into Scorpio and Sun moving into Libra. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you got that.
And then planets stationing retrograde or direct on the 5th or 6th, depending on where you are in the United States. Uranus will station retrograde and to stay retrograde until February 3rd of 2026. And in a few days, I'll be back with Madam Simon to do a show on Uranus retrograde. So we're going to start here. We have a chart cast for September 5th using the Uranus station retrograde, but I'm going to read from the 1st through the 6th. We have Saturn re-enters Pisces. On the 2nd, we have Mercury enters Virgo. Mercury is quincunx Saturn and Neptune. On the 3rd, Mercury is square Uranus and quincunx Pluto. On the 4th, we have Mars square Jupiter. And on the 5th, Uranus stations retrograde. So what's jumping out at you, Justin, that you want to talk about?
Well, I really what jumped out to me is that Mercury, quincunx. I love talking about quincunxes because it does represent an imbalance in relationship between the planets. And so that first one that you brought up there were, Mercury and Virgo, and it's quincunxing Saturn and Neptune. It, to me, that brings in an element of, and right after that, of course, it squares Uranus and quincunxes Pluto. So I think that's a really important planet in this first week of the month, because Mercury represents how we think and our communications, and it's right there with the Sun and South Node in Virgo. And I think with it, when it's quincunxing Neptune and Saturn, and so there's some element of a dose of reality. People are getting a dose of reality about whether the information in the collective is true or untrue between Mercury and Virgo versus Saturn and Neptune. It's about what's true and what's not true. And then, of course, that the fact that it's also quincunxing Pluto in Aquarius, which has also an element of social media. I think it's an important time to kind of pay attention to information that's coming to us, and really using that energy of Mercury and Virgo, which has a really strong discernment about what's true and what's not true with it. And that's really what kind of jumps out to me at the chart. What about you?
Well, yeah, and that Mercury is so active because for that first week, and then it's square that Uranus. So, double check the information you receive. But I would say also take notes of what information might be coming in, or messages you hear, or if you hear something over and over, maybe take note because it might become in very useful in the near future.
And this is so back to kind of what I was talking about in the very beginning, how this is an inflection point month. I think, because I actually have Mercury in my chart squaring my Uranus. And so this is actually can be a positive thing as far as thinking and communications, especially with Uranus and Gemini. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It's going retrograde. I think this is a good time for people who write, who are going back and analyzing communications, editing books, and I think it's a positive thing because Mercury squaring Uranus will tend to make a person question everything, and actually reorder their communications and their thinking. It's an element of second guessing or going back and reordering. So I think this can be a very positive thing for artists who are writers or anybody that has any output with media or learning as well. Good time for learning.
Well, and the information could be really flowing. It's like if you were a writer, it's like you might just really hit that creative streak and just go, go, go.
And so what I guess I didn't finish what I said in there. So because this is the month of Virgo and inflection point and kind of leading up to everything, I think it's that this could be the time when people really do make some decision about something to improve this year or to finish or complete something this year.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. Do you want to speak to the Mars square Jupiter at all?
Well, I think you and I were talking offline about this one. The Mars is not necessarily happy there or comfortable in Libra, and I think when it squares Jupiter and Cancer there, I think this again represents sort of I believe our relationships in the tribe, and I think it's really important to be aware of our emotions and our actions within the collective right now with our relationships. What do you think about that?
Well, I like that a lot, and I would agree. Yeah, because it's kind of opening an opportunity to the imbalance that could be happening in relationships is really giving us an opportunity to correct that imbalance or find a better balance.
Yeah, and it could also be a time when people have some difficulties with familial relationships, right? But it could be, like you said, a good time to improve those or correct the imbalance.
Right, because maybe there's been some friction and now you can do some healing with that,
Yeah.
But be cautious, stride carefully. Oh, I hear the wind chimes. Those are great.
Yes.
So then we move on to the Pisces full moon eclipse at 15 degrees Pisces in 22 minutes on September 7th. And we have the moon aspects here, but we'll be back later to talk about the full moon in depth in a few days. So we have the moon trine Jupiter, semi square to Pluto, opposite Mercury in the south node, and quincunx Venus and Mars. So, what would you like to tell us?
Well, I'd be curious what you think about this because this is that Pisces. What back to what we were talking about, the theme of the nodes this year with well, of course, it brings in the really highlights where the nodes are going through this year. I think this can be an inflection point about new information coming in, or really, let's say that you really haven't been able to find out something this year. This can be a good point of discovery and understanding something, some inner truth or some outer truth at this particular point in time. What do you think?
Well, and I agree with that, and the nodes are really close, so it's gonna be from Europe, people will be able to see this eclipse. We won't be able to see it from the United States, but I would say that this is gonna be a pretty powerful one because those nodes are really close to that sun and moon, so,
Yeah, and
um
it's because it's a lunar eclipse, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
They can still be farther apart from the nodes. I mean, there can be a little bit more distance, but and I would believe that this one's gonna be a total, and I forgot to look that up to see if it was a total.
It'll be a partial, actually, a
Okay.
partial on this one. And I'm just curious what you think. Because I'm always telling the students that eclipses are represent change in cycles,
Mhm.
and specifically lunar eclipses when the Earth sees its shadow. So it can be a time when we look at our shadow and go deeper and to heal something darker, or look at something deeper into our psyche, especially when Virgo and Pisces. What do you think about this, the theme around this lunar eclipse?
Well, yeah, and then that moon is opposite Mercury also, so, the communication will be highlighted and our emotions, I think, will be highlighted to a certain extent, and with that semi-square to Pluto, it's like we might have to dig down deep to face the truth, but it will really help us to do that, and then Jupiter, it's like we can gain and make big improvements if we just do the work it's required.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then the quincunxes to Venus and Mars, that's nice, I think, even though it's asking for adjustments, but they're working together because they're sextile to each other. Mars and Venus are, and they're pointing to that moon. So it's like, let's really accept our emotions and face them. I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I agree. I like the aspect there with the Mars. I think because there's sextile, that the Mars is our action and our desires with Venus are could be in alignment, but then what could be out of alignment is the emotions, because
Mhm.
the moon is quincunx, so it's in balance with those. So I think it's a good time to bring those three things into balance, and because our thinking is there, the Mercury's opposite the moon, so it's almost like the moon is noticing all the inner planets, all the personal planets here. And so I think things really come into play around our action, our thinking, our desires, and our emotions. All can all be aligned at this particular lunar eclipse.
Absolutely. And eclipses to me are like, they're kind of like a wild card. It's like you might not know what to expect, or you can't really say for sure what's going to happen, but definitely there's usually change around the eclipses, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we're going to go from September 8th through the 18th. On the 12th, we have Sun and Mercury sextile Jupiter. On the 13th, we have Sun conjunct Mercury, so that'll be Cazimi that day. On the 15th, Venus is sextile Mars. On the 16th, we have Mercury quincunx Chiron, Venus trine Chiron, and Mars opposite Chiron. That's a lot going on with Chiron that day. On the 17th, Mercury is opposite Saturn, and that's the chart we're using today for this week. And then on the 18th, Mercury enters Libra, Venus is quincunx Saturn, Sun is quincunx Chiron, Mercury is opposite Neptune, Mercury is trine Uranus, and Mercury is trine Pluto. A lot going on these 10 days. So what's jumping out at you, or what do you want to
Well,
tell us about?
I'm gonna go back to Mercury again, because in that the first week we saw Mercury was squaring Uranus, and it was quincunx Pluto. Both of those are air signs, and of course, Mercury ruling, of course, one of those signs. So it was a lot of air and thinking and analysis and reworking ideas, because it was squaring Uranus. But now in this week, Mercury moves into where it is trining Uranus. So there's a shift there, I think, where in the first week you could be um, re looking at ideas and thoughts and decisions that you want to make, but then this week you go and you make the decision, and you move forward, because of course then Mercury trines that Pluto, instead of, it brings in some sense of Mercury's out of balance and out of sync with these Uranus and Pluto in the first week, but then it trines both Pluto and Uranus in the second week. So I think that could be the time when you make some decisions or move forward with action.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mercury is really active, pretty much the first 3 weeks of this month that we're seeing here for sure. Anything else?
No, I'm just curious what jumps out with you.
Well, kind of Chiron was, um, I think it was Chiron because there was a lot of aspects with Chiron. And so Chiron is kind of active. So, an opportunity to do some self healing, I'm thinking, you
Yeah.
know, and, any small steps, sudden steps, any change towards that, I think it would be a really good opportunity. Don't
Yeah.
miss it, take it.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanna talk about for this week?
Yeah, I just want to point out I mean, we already talked about the Mercury opposite Saturn, but I think what really also jumps out to me here is the Mars opposite Eris in Chiron, because Mars, Eris is kind of like to me is like the feminine aspect, or um,
Archetype.
equivalent to Mars, right? The feminine equivalent to the masculine Mars. So the fact that they are opposite here with the self and relationship signs, it seems like to me that this could be a month or a week where, and actually it's going to be for a couple of weeks here, where Mars, it could really be highlighting conflict. I mean, this is a point of conflict here with relationships. So it could actually, we could see maybe an increase a little bit during this week. The moon's in Leo that week, which is a fire sign. So, we could see an increase in some, conflicts. So I would say it's a week to be aware of those because the Mars Eris opposition.
Thank you for that. Okay, moving right along. We're going to go to September 19th through the 21st. On the 19th, we have Mercury trine Uranus and Pluto. Venus enters Virgo. Venus is quincunx Neptune. On the 20th, Mars is quincunx Saturn. Venus square Uranus. Venus quincunx Pluto, and Sun opposite Saturn. And then on the 21st, we have the solar eclipse new moon. And that's the second new moon in Virgo at 29 degrees. So what's jumping out at you at this few days?
Well, I also want to point out that's also the fall equinox for people that are, keeping track or do rituals and things with the change of seasons. So that this solar eclipse is the fall equinox. The thing that jumps out to me, Liz, on this one is Venus, especially when Venus enters Virgo. Our desires and affections to take on more of a need to help others, and also could bring in a little bit if a person has Venus in Virgo, they're having a Venus return, but also it can be a more analytical or perfectionist to how we look, or critical about how we look to others, and or even some criticalness about our affections, and or how people are expressing affection to us. So I think Venus in Virgo also offers a chance to fix some of our affections and our desires, and so it's a time where we could take on a period of like, well, maybe I need to really go back and look at my goals for the last 3 months of this year, as I finish up with this fall equinox. How can I improve some of my desires, or things I want to buy for the rest of the year, or things I want to do, or some tasks, because task oriented be in Virgo. But I also thought it was interesting that Venus also quincunxes Neptune and quincunxes Pluto here this week. And so that to me it can be where, with Venus quincunxing Neptune, it could be where your desires are kind of going in a different direction than everybody else. And then it could bring some dose of reality to some of your desires, because Neptune has that Piscean feel to it, right? Even though it's there in Aries, it can still have that Piscean feel to it. And then it's quincunxing Pluto. So I think there's a time where Pluto allows some change of thinking around our desires and affections around this time. What do you think?
Well, I agree with what you said, and I want to apologize that some of the lines are not exactly lining up on this chart, and I didn't notice that until just now.
Well, sometimes it's hard to get them all to line up. So there's that Venus and Virgo. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and Venus is jumping out, but then, Mars is too. So the inner planets are really active in this 3-day period, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, pretty much. So it's like, so to me, it's like there's just a lot of action and energy happening and change. And it's like, as much as you can, go with the flow, be easy on yourself. I would say take good care of yourself for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
Well, September is that I always, when we think about Virgo energy, I just want to mention something here. For example, I think another reason this month is so important is that we know there's this generation of people, which you and I are part of, that have Pluto and Virgo. And so at some point this year, those of us in this generation that have Pluto and Virgo are going to have Ketu hit Virgo. And that's pretty powerful, like crossroads and inflection point about something this year that will change in our ordered life, right? You just, you just got a new car, and it could be something to do with our families or our houses or where we live. And, also this is the 9 months of the year. It's a
Mm.
month of endings and completions and a change from the summer to the fall. So I think this is really a month where people, it's not so much maybe about, it can be about getting something done, but it can also be a month where you have a really contraction or inflection point about where you're going next.
Right. That the 9 being the number of ending and completions to move on to the next step. And so, we're in a 9 year and in a 9 months. So that's pretty interesting. That 9 energy is pretty powerful. And yes, it might just come up that it might be really easy to release something that, you kind of know is coming and you've been thinking about it, and it just kind of goes smoothly. Now, it doesn't always come smoothly, but hopefully it comes smoothly for everybody. So, and, even just little steps in working on health improvement. It could be, take a 15-minute walk after dinner on nice evenings, or, maybe at lunchtime in your break from work, take a 10 or 15-minute walk. Just try to add in something that's helps improve your health. Doesn't have to
No,
be
I agree.
big.
I agree. And I think, again, for those who would watch this and if they have Pluto and Virgo, they really should pay attention to this year, because this is the year where everybody has something that has Pluto and Virgo will have some um, change this year in their life.
Right, and Pluto, I always think of it like pushing it up, like, kind of like a volcano. It's like if you don't look at it, it kind of starts to rise by itself. It's like you almost can't
Yeah,
stop it. So, try to look at it so it doesn't erupt in like a volcano in your life.
right, exactly,
And most of us are probably getting hints of little things to release, so
right.
I just encourage people to do that. Okay, so we did this one, so we'll go to the next one. So then we have the second Virgo new moon, which is a solar eclipse at 29 degrees and 5 minutes. And the moon aspects are the moon is trine Uranus, sextile Juno, square Hygeia, and opposite Saturn and Neptune. So what would you like to talk about?
I think I pretty much already covered some things on here, so I don't really have anything more to say about this one.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just move on. And I'll be back in a few weeks with Madam Simon, and we'll be talking about the new moon anyway.
And she's really a great astrologer too. She's like you. She's very smart.
Thank
She'll
you.
give a lot of deep insight into that.
We
So
all appreciate that. So September 22nd through the 31st. On the 22nd, we have Mars enters Scorpio and the Sun enters Libra, which is the fall equinox. On the 23rd, we have Mars quincunx Neptune, Sun trine Uranus, Sun trine Pluto, Sun opposite Neptune. And on the 24th, we have Mars quincunx Uranus and Mars square Pluto. So what jumps out to you at this chart?
well, I love Mars, as you know. I love talking about Mars, and I think thing here that jumped out to me was the Mars quincunx Neptune to start with, because that can mean that especially if a person has Mars in Scorpio, this could be the time when they want to take action or accomplish something, get moving with something, but it may be opposite of what everybody else is going towards, because it's imbalanced quincunx with Neptune, which is the collective. So it could be a little bit of a misalignment with what everybody else is doing. It doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't be doing it, but and then the fact that it also quincunx is Uranus, I think brings in um, an element, and it's squaring Pluto. I think it's that this could be the month, instead of trying to move forward and control something and get something going with that Mars and Scorpio, might be a good month to kind of second guess that and to reevaluate that. I think both all three of the outer planets there, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, are asking Mars to think before it takes action.
Well, and it's really interesting that that moon is really close to that Mars, almost exact when um, this is going on. So it's like I find that really interesting because it's also driving the emotions, and it could be really improve your intuition too, because it's
Mm-hmm.
Scorpio's a water sign. So and Mars in a water sign, Mars isn't the happiest in water signs, but it could still be taking action to improve your emotions, your intuition, and all that. So it's like maybe make intentions when before you go to bed and dream, or do some automatic writing, etc. Anything else jump out at you?
No, no. I think I'll just leave that. I think you wrapped that up well.
Well, thank you. Okay, let's see what we got next. Okay, so thank you, Justin, for joining me. And I want to thank our audience for joining us today, and those that come back and watch at a future time. We appreciate your support and look forward to having you back anytime soon. And Justin and I do consultations in person on Zoom. We both have newsletters and YouTube channels and social media, so we look forward to seeing you there. And Justin, I'll let you tell them about your
Yeah, the
happening.
best way to get a hold of me is through my email at justin.elzie@gmail.com.
Thank you. And there's a lot of other shows to choose from. There's past shows and always upcoming shows, so we have a lot to offer. And Justin and I will be on Talk Cosmos on September 14th, talking about the Virgo solar eclipse, new moon, unmasking reality. We look forward to having you join us there. And I want to thank our sponsor, Astro Peregrine Software. It works on Mac and Windows, and you can find more information at astroperegrine.com. So thanks again, Justin. Thanks for joining me, and we'll be back in a few days
Yeah.
with
Can I
the
can I kind of give I'd be curious what you think would be the takeaway from this month. Um, to me, I think the takeaway would be this would be a good month to try to improve something in our lives with Virgo. What do you think?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I'm working at getting my life a little bit more organized, just because I've been in so many projects that I feel like I've kind of made a disruptive, like a volcano kind of spit around my property in place. And so I'm going to kind of try to
Well, you're
or
finishing up your deck. You're finishing up your deck this month, so that's a Virgo theme thing there. So
absolutely. So good luck to everybody. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And we're going to say goodbye for now. And thanks again, Justin.
okay, bye.